Hey guys, Abhinav here. Like, share, subscribe, press the bell icon. And while you see the videos, also check out the description. We have all the links to everything we have said. Well, almost everything, hopefully, in the description below. Happy watching. Okay, that silence is good enough for me to ask everybody to move to the next fact. Is that okay? So the third fact of the day is by the person who gave, apparently, as in, I think we know, I mean, we are not sure who gave the podcast its name, but it's most probably Ria. So yeah, Ria, go for your fact.
So my fact is that in 2018, Indian forest officials and police officers successfully used a perfume for men. It's Calvin Klein's Obsession to lure and kill a man-eating tigress. So the story goes is that the ingredient of this particular perfume, one of the key ingredients, and also an ingredient used in perfumes in general, is civetone, which is a pheromone released by civets. And civets are an animal that are actually one of the main preys that these wild cats eat in the wild. Wild cats eat in the wild. So, attracted to that smell, they actually end up following the smell, and you can lure them into traps and all. And zoos actually use perfumes to control wild cats across the globe.
Nice.
Calvin Klein instead of Klein.
Nice. I had thought of कि जंगली बिल्लियों को ये पसंद है, but the yours is better.
Don too, Allah.
This is like the wildcat version of folk chal raha hai.
So similar, as in a similar research, not a research, as in a story where perfume is used for an alternate purpose, if you may. So there's this perfume called Victoria's Secret Bombshell, right? So it's a fluty floral type perfume, which obviously scientists thought would attract mosquitoes. But when they did a research on, they were trying to find good repellents. So they used this particular perfume, and it turned out that this was a big repellent, as in it worked much better than many of the other like an Odomos or an All Out and all of that in the market, but not obviously not in the Indian market. And these were repelling mosquitoes for more than 2 hours, which is a big for the industry standard.
So like when like this fact sort of made me wonder what else are the things that go in perfumes. Like if this is a pheromone derived from civets, like what other things go in a perfume? So one of the most interesting things that I found was, so there's this compound called indole, which is so when you want the perfume to have a jasmine smell, you use a compound called indole. So right, when it's usually derived from like white flowers like jasmine to have that very calming, nice, cool smell. But that is pretty expensive. So industrially, it's also a byproduct of the coal tar formation process. So that is since it's a like carbon-based compound, so organic compounds are aromatic, and we all read this stuff if we were in science. So that is of course the source. But so there was this person who found an unlikely source for indole. So apart from coal tar, our feces and our urine, it also has a large amount of indole, and indole can basically be derived from our feces and urine using a lot of organic processes like distillation and purification of like waste product. So a guy called Jimmy actually did that and sold 5 bottles of a perfume made out of his own shit.
How many
This
bottles?
was just around, so each bottle was around 6,000 rupees. But there's this guy called Jamie who made perfume out of his own shit.
Ma'am, Jamie is a brilliant genius person. He's cracked the system.
And he's also Indira Nagar ka gunda.
So, like the way, what was very, I think he could have sold the perfume better had he just, improved his marketing strategy, because the posters that I saw for it, so it had a woman with a lot of black material on her. So that is very repelling. So had he, just marketed in a better way, he would have sold more than 25 bottles, I'm pretty sure. But like, this is still 6,000. The fact that he sold 25 bottles of his own shit is also like, wow. I aspire to be that man someday.
I mean, when we're talking about perfumes, we cannot not talk about how they are kind of made. So they are very musical in a way. So they have a top note, they have a middle note, they have a base note, right? So top notes are like the scents which are immediately perceived, and lighter molecules which evaporate very quickly. But these are the most immediate smell that comes in, and they last for about 10 to 15 minutes. The middle notes are called the heart notes, right? And these emerge just before the top notes go away, and they stay for about a few hours, right? And base notes are something which is, as in, they stay for about a couple of days and all of that. And this is the main theme of the perfume, as in, which lingers on for a long time. So I'm sure most of us would know. And as in, this is something which you would have seen either in the film Perfume, The Story of a Murderer, or of course the original book by Patrick Susskind, which is called Perfume, The Story of a Murderer. But something which not many of us would know, that there is also a Nirvana song which is based on the source, as in based on the original book by Susskind, and that is called Scentless Apprentice. Kurt Cobain actually claimed that it was one of his favorite books, and said he identified with the alienation of Jean-Baptiste Grenouille, which is obviously the main character in the book.
Yeah. Also, another Nirvana song, of course, the most famous one, is also based on a deodorant, right?
Yeah. I mean, that song is so easy to play, but the drums are so hard. As in, it's just 4 chords. It's such an easy song to play.
Have you seen people get offended when you conflate deodorant with perfume? Because when I was researching for this fact, I read a ton of interviews came up where everyone was like, oh no, deodorant is not perfume. Deodorant should not be used like this, etc. etc.
So like perfume and cologne, I mean, they're like scientifically different things, and deodorant to apna alag hi scene hota hai. So I think we've committed a lot of blunders, but we let it slide.
I just realized it's called Eau de Toilette, right?
Yeah.
It's Jamie literally made an Eau de Toilette. I just realized this. My God.
Should have called it that, no?
Yeah. I'm not sure if it was called that, but yeah. What a man. Geniuses.
Talk about some of the other perfumes also. So there was a perfume called Zen. So this was produced by a Japanese company called Shiseido. So how they came up with this was they had a few roses going into the NASA shuttle Discovery, right? So the scent molecules from the rose were collected by the astronauts using a very tiny silicon fiber, right? And after the mission was done, it was like a 10-day mission. So the samples were analyzed by fragrance researchers and used to create this particular perfume. And it's a very random thing to do. But yeah, so mostly I feel that these are only marketing gimmicks so that you come in the news and all of that. And you have to obviously put in a lot of money on and all of that. But yeah, sometimes these work, sometimes they don't.
Yeah, but I think like the professional noses or the people who test perfumes as they're called. Like they have to undergo such rigorous training, and they also have to be so careful with their diet. Like they can't eat spicy food, careful with uh, even careful with in general their lifestyles, so that they don't disturb their olfactory senses, and they can, I think those are the only people who can truly appreciate shit like this.
I think it would be interesting to see how, if anyone like this got affected by coronavirus, which notably takes away your sense of smell. Pretty interesting to see how that impact, would go on into their professional life as well. Right.
Yeah. Okay. So Hetvi's last word was shit. So talking of shit, because the main ingredient in obsession, Calvin Klein's obsession, was obviously civet. What was it? Civetone, right? Yeah.
Civetone, yeah.
So we obviously, most of us know that Kopi Luwak is created with all of those. Right? But does anybody know that which is the only which animal produces the only cube-shaped poop?
Wombats. Yeah.
Wombats.
So my data mining professor.
Okay.
Like we have this course, right? So we have this professor, and he's a big wildlife enthusiast. So in one of the first classes, he was teaching us. He was teaching us something from computer vision, which is like how do you teach a computer to identify animals? And he had a picture of two wildcats and a wombat. And I was I was the only one who was able to identify the wombat. And I'm like, that is a you should quiz. If not, you should quiz just to answer. Just to answer a random professor's question in some random lecture. He was so happy that day, my God. He was like, someone knows this apart from me. But yeah.
That was the shade, man. So yeah, but okay. So wombats. So there was a research about in 2018. So they wanted to find out why they produce this cubical poop, right? So they compared a pig's intestine to a wombat intestine, and it turned out that their intestine is much more irregular, as in wombat's intestine, and they also had these ravine-like grooves inside there. So where the and the elasticity of their intestines is much less than, for example, a pig. And this is the reason why they have, as in it's not the anus, it's not the stomach or anything of that sort. It's because of the intestine shape that it happens. And the reason why they need this kind of an intestine is because they live in very dry places, right? So they have to kind of squeeze everything out. And so if you realize that the intestine is doing that and their shape is that way, because they have to squeeze everything out. And of course, if it's a cubicle shape, it makes it that much better. And which is why wombats have cubicle poops.
To think of disgusting, like not exactly disgusting, but like you mentioned Kopi Luwak. Like we don't even need to go as far as Kopi Luwak coffee to, think of something which would be in most of our households right now, which is honey. So honey is made by a partial regurgitation by bees, and then deposited in honeycombs. So yeah, we eat disgusting things. But
so the strangest movie, obviously, one of the stranger movies is the bee movie.
Which gets faster every time they say bee. Have you seen that version? Oh, it's on YouTube. Okay. Yeah, bee movie, but it gets faster every time someone mentions bees.
Okay. So that will be like a 5-minute video?
Oh, no. It still goes on for a little while. But,
So yeah, so they have that also. All of this also in the bee.
So, speaking of space and perfume, I'm still stuck on that. So NASA actually has a professional smeller, so to say, in their payroll. So what that person does is, he has to essentially predict that, whatever the astronauts are taking into space, how it will behave in space, and what perfumes or what smells or molecules can it leave behind. Because, there's always a chance that we leave something back in space or in the moon that turns out to be fatal a few years later, maybe. So can you tell me what is his official job title?
Soothsayer?
So he's predicting this, okay? And he's using his sense of smell to do it. So
Nostradamus.
yes, correct.
Oh,
Nostril-Damus.
wow. So this is like an imaginative name related to perfume, right? A very unimaginative name related to perfume is obviously one of the most famous perfumes we've all probably heard of, Chanel No. 5. So Chanel No. 5 was actually one of those perfumes that was tried to see if tigers would react to it as strongly as they did to Calvin Klein Obsession. They used a bunch of other perfumes also, like Experiments May, Estee Lauder, Calvin Klein Obsession for women. But then they found out that those only hold tigers' attention for like 11, 12 seconds. And meanwhile, Calvin Klein Obsession for men is like a solid 5 minutes. Plus, it's cheaper. So they went with that. But Chanel No. 5, and you think, oh, No. 5, like, what does it stand for? It's basically, there was Coco Chanel when she made it. Like, you have your perfumer or whatever that person is called. He brought a bunch of samples in little glass bottles. So there was some 20, 30 samples that the final perfume could be chosen from. She basically picked the 5th sample to be the final Chanel No. 5. And she was like, yeah, we'll just call it No. 5.
I think apparently there is this thing with Coco Chanel that she used to put perfume in the fountains of Paris or something. I mean, this is just lore, I think. I'm pretty sure this is not a fact. But still a pretty thing to do, to be a Nazi sympathizer and also put perfume in the fountains of Paris.
So there is this urban legend that once Marilyn Monroe was asked that what do you wear to bed? And she says a few drops of Chanel No. 5.
So I think Agatha Christie has also paid tribute to Chanel No. 5 in her books. So some of her books have this perfume called Gabrielle No. 8 as a tribute.
Interesting.
Nice.
Okay, so talking about having pheromones to lead out animals. So this is actually a practice that is done across farms in say Australia and the Galapagos Islands. So in the Galapagos especially, what they do is they have a lot of feral goats there. Okay, so what they essentially do is they take female goats, they alter them physically and chemically so that they have essentially an extended libido, and then they airdrop them right into the middle of herds of those feral goats. Okay, and then their only job is to drag the male goats out, which can then be assassinated. And these goats are called Mata Hari goats. So because that was essentially what Mata Hari used to do as well.
Can we point out that Piyush was talking about genocide very randomly, acha log mar rahe, but the goat is being assassinated. Like there was no respect given to the goat. But this is pretty cool, yeah. Nice.
Listen, we're talking about animal assassinations and we did not mention Harambe, so Rip Harambe.
Rip Harambe.
And when
that's
male,
it.
when
I
male
thought
goats
that's a
do
fact.
it, there should be a rant here, of course.
When male goats, sorry.
Yeah, so when male goats are assigned to do this, they don't have any pheromones inserted. They're just assigned a radio collar to track them, and their job is to fight with the goats and bring them out into the open where everyone has a clear view. So they are known by the name of Judas goats.
Nice.
Okay.
So anyway, so this is one more interesting thing. So yeah, you're talking about perfumes and pheromones being used to tag animals in a sense. So now hummingbirds are like really nice, delicate creatures. So when scientists want to tag them, they cannot use something that is too invasive because then it won't come off easily. So what they do is they use the same glue that is to be used to stick on fake eyelashes. So they use a dab of the fake eyelash, like the glue used to stick eyelashes, and they use on the fur of hummingbirds. So this is such a cute thing to do. I mean, they're already tiny, delicate creatures in glue, eyelash glue being put on them, right?
So another fact that I have is, so in the early 2000s again, when FIFA 2001 Gran Turismo 2 was there, right? On the initial PlayStation 1. So they had a scratch and sniff perfume disc. So they were supposed to smell like football pitch in the FIFA one and burning tires in the Gran Turismo one. So there are different scratch and sniff things, but these are the two I found very interesting. As in, I've never played a PlayStation because my father was like, no. But दूसरी तरफ से हम बिगड़ गए दूसरे साइड से वीडियो गेम से क्या हो
I was wondering if, so whenever we, go in an airport or some place which has a lot of perfume stores, they always make you try samples. So is the philosophy behind this same as the philosophy behind showing a lot of ads and repetition and everything that we were talking
From what I remember, so initially when the initial supermarkets were coming in, there was still a lot of horse-drawn carriages, right? So there was a lot of horse shit on the road, and it was all very stinky, right? So samples wali baat to nahi hai, but they used to have the perfume counter in the very beginning, so that when you enter, the first thing that you get is a good smell, and it kind of creates a curtain, as in maybe a scent curtain for you to get. As in, it's not obviously the modern supermarket store that we know today, but as in a bigger shop and all of that. And this is obviously very Eurocentric or American centric and all.
So, just talking about shopping places and people shopping, etc. I mean, I think we all know that shopping complexes are laid out in a certain manner to map ideal consumers, like walk around it and seeing how much you buy. So, because of a lot of prices being like, 99 and ending in 99, you quite often end up with like a balance of some currency from the next round number that's about to come through, which is why close to counters you have these small really cheap things. Like if you've seen H&M and Forever 21, they keep like jewelry and all. So you're like, oh, I'm just gonna get like what, $80 back in change, might as well just buy something. So they do the math. They're like, oh, this covers up the difference and we'll keep it there. Makeup, bags, stuff like that.
So one of the origins, as in apparent origins, according to Bill Bryson, in one of his book, I don't remember which one, of the 99 or 95 pricing is, right? So you used to have cash registers, right? But the bosses couldn't be, as in the cashier was obviously an employee of the boss. So the boss couldn't always be there, right? So if it's a $5 thing, they used to make it $4.99 just so the cashier couldn't pocket it to themselves, and they had to open the cash register so that they had to make that sale on the record and all of that, so that they couldn't cheat and all of that. So apparently, this is one of the reasons that this happened. This is obviously also called Bata pricing, which everybody knows, I'm sure.
There was this, I know it's probably an apocryphal case study back at my college. So there was this tea shop right outside college, right? So tea and cigarettes and stuff. So what happens is basically it started making a loss in its toffee sale business. So what they realized was essentially that a single cigarette, it was essentially priced 9. So people used to buy a toffee for a round figure, but then the price of the toffee got increased to 10, and then people stopped buying toffees. And that is how stopped selling that.
Hey, remember how toffees just became currency? Like my school canteen, they didn't give us like change at all. They used to give us like 2 melody and be like, मतलब यही खा देना फिर.
पता नहीं क्या करना चाहिए इसके लिए, एक प्लास्टिक लेके जाना चाहिए तो ये लो 50 रुपए ऐसा करो अब आप.